Hi everybody, and welcome to our masterclass today for breaking the reaction cycle. So breaking the reaction cycle to respond with nurturing calm. So just make sure everybody's muted. Hi, and welcome everybody to this online masterclass. I'm so excited to have you all here with me. Please feel free to take notes. If you've got a journal or a notebook there, mark down some notes because I'm going to be giving you some practical advice as well as uncovering some layers that we'll be needing to work through to get to the crux of this issue. So I will be keeping all names and stories confidential. So if I'm asking some questions, feel free to write your answers out into the chat box, and then I can address your particular issues and what's going on for you without having to name you into the group, because this does get uploaded as a replay for the rest of the people that signed up that couldn't make it live. Okay, so if your kids are with you, if you've got things going on in your background, if you have to go and attend to your kids, I am completely making space for the sacred art of raw motherhood. So if you do need to attend to your children, don't worry about it. Just do it, and we'll still be here if you need to run off and come back or whatever you need to do. That's fine. So I welcome those sort of interruptions. We are making space for that. Okay, so today's topic is breaking the reaction cycle to be able to respond with nurturing presence. And I'd love to hear, when was the last time that you felt yourself reacting rather than responding in a way that you would really love to be responding to your children? And I mean, we all have these values of gentle, respectful parenting. We have these values of being conscious in our way that we handle our emotions and that we're there for our children. But oftentimes that we can get our emotions, the moment can get the better of us, and we find ourselves in reaction. We find ourselves triggered and in a moment that we snap. So can you tell me in the chat box, if you feel so comfortable, as to tell me, when was the last time that you had a reaction? What was it to? Okay, so I'll come back and read through those when we get to that point. But I'm going to share some background information today on what does it mean to have a reaction versus a response, and where does it come from? What's the reason why we feel so unconscious about these reactions when we know what we want to be able to do, but somehow in the moment something from the unconscious comes up and takes over? Why don't we have control over that? And I'm going to give you some practical tips that you can use in the moment to keep yourself grounded and calm, so that when this rises up within you, you've got something to hold on to. Okay, you can see that you said here that when you're trying to leave a voicemail and ask your child to leave the room 4 times. Yeah, it can be so hard. As soon as we get on the phone, they need our attention. And that can be so hard to try and get stuff done when they're constantly at us, and they'll see that we're doing something that may be important, or it may be something that requires our full attention, and then all of a sudden they are so demanding. Can completely relate to that. So once we've gone through all of that information style stuff, I'm going to share with you how I support mothers through this type of thing. And I'm going to, if you stick around to the end, then we get to hear about my special offers that I have, especially for my masterclass attendees. So for simply watching this all the way to the end, you'll get a special offer for working with me. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop up a slideshow. So let me know if you have any issues with seeing that. There we go. Okay, so breaking the reaction cycle to respond with nurturing presence. And I do have notes here so that I don't lose track, because otherwise I talk in spirals. So I need to keep myself on a bit of a linear pathway here. So don't mind me if I'm looking down and checking where I'm at. So I want to make sure that I'm not rambling for you. My name is Dania. I'm an intuitive guide, mentor, and energy healer. I have worked with women in the community and online around the world for the past 5 years. I intuitively work through the energies of Reiki and Tarot, and I'm also certified in crystal healing and meditation. I'm also a third-year naturopathy student as well, studying my bachelor in health science, which is a passion of mine. Something I'm really passionate about, and a mission that I'm on that has been divinely sent to me, has been to really support mothers at the moment. I feel like that is my calling. I want to help mothers to embrace their intuition. I want to help mothers to embrace their connection to self and to source, so that they can be a grounded guide for the children of now. The children of now are divinely in tune with the universe and with the earth around us. And I feel like we need to be able to be in a grounded state ourselves as mothers. We need to be able to be healed and whole within ourselves, so that we can hold the space for them to rise without the restraints that we're having to de-shackle ourselves from at the moment through our own healing journeys. So I hold circles online through the Healing Ground, and I also hold private mentorship journeys called the Motherhood Evolution. Okay, so today we're talking about responding rather than reacting. So it's really hard to stay calm when we're triggered, even if we're educated on calm parenting. So why is this so important? Well, our logical minds know how we want to respond. Our logical minds have read all the books, they've listened to all the podcasts, they've educated themselves, and they've got these strong values on how they want to raise their children. We logically know that we want to do better. We logically know what our children deserve and what we want to be able to give them. And we will be advocating for gentle parenting. We're advocating for respectful parenting. We have all of these strong values. But then what happens when we're in the moment? We get this trigger, something innate just snaps within us in the heat of the moment and takes over. And unconsciously, we react with something that's from deep within us that we feel like we have absolutely no control on, until the moment has passed, and then we're like flooded with guilt. We're flooded with regret about how we've just yelled at our child or snapped at our child or pushed them away or told them that's enough. You know, using that example of that when you're on the phone and they just keep on nagging at you, keep on pulling at you, trying to get your attention away from the task that you're trying to do. Okay, so our logical mind wants to respond peacefully, but there's something that comes out of us and innately reacts rather than responds. Now, that reaction state is a state of fight or flight. Okay, that is a state when a part of our brain takes over that says that we are not safe in this moment, and we need to react with an innate instinct of protection. How is that? Okay, so it's all about this trigger of the unconscious that we need to be aware of. Okay, so an example from my own journey would be clingy kids, attention-seeking behavior. It's very similar to the example that was given in your experiences of the trying to leave the voicemail and your child demanding your attention constantly, trying to get you, and we snap and we say enough. Okay, because this is triggering something deep within us that says this is not a safe moment. So when we come up against all of our triggers are our subconscious, our conscious minds, our inner selves really coming to the surface and saying, this is something that I want you to work through. You are ready to heal through this moment in time where you did not feel safe. Okay, this section of your life, this section of your soul contract of what you are here to learn and deliver has come up as a trigger for you to say that you're ready to deal with this now. Our triggers are a sign that we are ready to step in and become aware of something within ourselves that needs to be brought to the surface and processed. Okay, so to come to the first level of this is like, well, how do we do that? How do we stay calm? How do we stay grounded and aware when we're feeling triggered? When we're feeling like this part of ourselves is feeling unsafe? So I can see that you say you'll perfectly describe the spiral of emotions from logically choosing good, then snapping. And then I experienced the guilt, second trigger of flashbacks to how I was treated with a child as a child. Yes, you have definitely nailed that there. So this is where it comes down to breaking the cycle. The cycle that comes around is the way that innate feeling of that I'm not safe. What's happening is, I'll take it back to my experience with a child who's really clingy and what would be called that attention-seeking behavior, that clinginess, that whingingness, that demanding of hanging off you and trying to get so close to you that they're crawling under your clothes. And that feeling triggers something within you. Whereas for me personally, it was myself as a child being that sensitive, clinging child and pushed away and said, enough, get off. Stop being so sensitive. Stand up, all these types of things. It triggers that feeling in me. And what happened for me as a child, feeling pushed away in that moment of sensitivity and really craving connection, craving relationship, craving to be seen and heard from the person and the people that I loved and honored the most, is a deep harboring of rejection. Okay, so it is managing that. So how do we do that? We've come to this stage here of reconnect. This is the first pillar of my work, to reconnect back in with self. So self-awareness is key. Know thyself. So this is why I ask you at the beginning, what are your biggest reaction points? What are your biggest triggers? What is the thing that your child does that absolutely drives you wild? And if you think about the patterning that comes out when you look at this, it can often surface that it is all coming back to one theme, one direction. Is it that this child is constantly demanding your attention? Is it that this child is not listening and being defiant? Is it that this child is unorganized and slow and that drives you mad? Is it that the child is bossy and speaking back to you? And how can you manage that? So these are different themes that can come through as what is the biggest trigger that really gets under your skin? What's the one that makes you want to tear your hair out? It really is hard to hold it together and you're gritting your teeth when you're in that moment. Because a lot of other things, as peaceful, gentle parents, we're able to let lots of things go and be really calm and grounded with so many things and let lots of things slide. And then there'll be one thing that you just can't stand. There's this one thing that just like every time that happens, I just can't contain myself. For some reason, I just bubble under the surface. I feel that resentment and I am so mad and I'm gritting my teeth and my whole body is tense. Yeah, who's felt that? The whole body tenses up and you just lose all logic. Let's see. Not listening or following simple daily routine rules and expectations and neediness as soon as I give anyone else attention. And I snap when I am concentrating and I have that nagging in the background. So interrupting the thought process as well. Yeah, that's definitely another theme that can come through. So we need to be really aware of what is the theme of your triggers. Okay, so how do we get to the point where we can actually hear that? Because sometimes the triggers can be so loud, the resentment can be so buried or pushed down because we're trying really, really hard to be calm and gentle that we're gritting our teeth and pushing it down and pretending it's not there, that sometimes we are unaware or we are too busy or too unfocused. Distracted is the word, to be able to clear all the noise so that you can hear, so you can listen to self and hear what these things are. Just checking that chat again. So neediness and not listening when studying, being clear with your boundaries and just doesn't listen. Yep, so that's really coming back to that interrupting your thought flow and that neediness again, and that not respecting your boundaries. That's huge. What theme have you got going there? And do you see that theme repeating with other people in your life as well? That's something that's really interesting there. Oops, moving too far across. There we go. Okay, so discovering your unmet needs is the other part of this reconnect pillar. Is what have you been denied? So this comes back to when I just said your boundaries, communicating your needs and boundaries. So where in your life have this has come up for so many of my clients, is that they get really triggered by the fact that their child is not respecting their boundaries and their child is not listening to their needs. Okay, where else in your life have you not been communicating your needs and your boundaries? And perhaps when our child comes up with pushing that boundary as well, it's not as easy to push it down. If it was somebody in the workspace, if it's a friend or a different family member that maybe is a bit older or more authoritarian than you, then you push it down and hold on to that and bury it down within our shadow. Okay, but if somebody is not respecting your needs or your boundaries, but then when your child is not respecting your needs or your boundaries, it gets like this amplified impact of all of the times when your needs and your boundaries have not been respected. Okay, so it's so important that we are self-aware of what is our actual trigger and where is it coming from. Discovering these unmet needs and what have you been denied. Let's go back into the chat and have a look at there it is, chat. Let's go back into the chat and see the other things that are coming up for you. So the clinginess and the demanding of the attention that comes through. So when were you not receiving the attention and the connection to people who loved you and that you loved and honored when you really needed it? This is such an inner child need that we all have. Okay, is that need for acceptance, that need for nurturing. How much have we missed out on nurturing, and we're craving that nurturing connection? And when our child craves that nurturing, we get that feeling of I'm not safe, it's not safe to feel nurtured, it's not safe to be nurtured, and we say stop. You know, this is just driving me crazy. Neediness, not listening out. Expecting of her that she should know better or have better self-regulation at times than she shows, or I feel she does things without thinking. I need to remind myself she's still learning these things, but it's hard at times. Yeah, okay, so taking that thing for you there and creating that to showing your inner child that, you know, it's okay, and really releasing some expectations on your own inner child is going to be huge for helping you to reconnect back in with self. Okay, so it's taking that moment for you, and where can you show some nurturing and show some compassion and relaxation around the expectations that you hold on yourself. That is huge. Think about where that story began. Where did that story begin? And when was the first time that you can recognize within yourself that you were put under some heavy expectations? When did somebody expect something huge of you? Were you expected to grow up a bit earlier than you really were ready to do? Were you expected to take on the caring of other people before you were ready to do that? Okay, that can often happen with sensitive children as well, is that when we sense that we have a sensitive child, we sense that they're really in tune with emotions, they're really caring, their heart space is completely open, okay, and then that comes into the, you are caring, you know better, you have a strong heart, so then their expectation is to care bigger, and this is where we have developed into those people-pleasing type behaviors. Okay, so also it said that being a mother has given me a new perspective of setting boundaries is an empowering new age goal, yet I realized I trust that adults will follow my communicated boundaries, that kids don't care or know how or developmentally unready to follow a boundary. Yeah, so how do we communicate a boundary to a child versus a boundary to an adult? A lot of that comes through with modeling as well. Experienced this with my mother as a teen, expecting me to grow and know better and do better. We get high expectations put on us early, we do. Okay, so this is all coming about discovering your unmet needs. What have you been denied? Communicating your needs and boundaries to others is a huge step to reconnecting with self. And having compassion for self, we just spoke about that then, mothering your inner child and showing the love and safety that you have craved. What have you missed out on, and what are you really craving to fill you up as an inner child? And can you bring in your inner mother, the divine mother energy, to hold that space for you? So let's talk about the practical toolkit that comes into this. What are some things that you can do in the moment and to help you in the moment so that you can remain a grounded, calm, and aware guide for your beautifully sensitive and aware child? Okay, so we've got first point here is anchor points. So what I mean by anchor points is that I have an anchor point that's set as an alarm that goes off before anybody in my house wakes up. And that's to make sure that I wake up before anybody else so that I can set my intention and anchor to my breath and set my intention to where I want my energy to be, what I want to embody for the day. And that anchor point is just a simple breathing technique that rewires my energetic system, my neurological system, to calm and to feel safe and secure, and so that I don't have to be in fight and flight mode. And that's simply very easy to do, is a count of 4 to breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a count of 8 to breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. Okay, so it's just that cycle of breath, and I call it anchoring to my breath. And while I'm doing that, I'm envisioning who I want to be, the energy that I want to embody for the day, and I'm bringing that into my energetic center, anchoring down through into my base chakra, which is at the base of your spine. You can feel that through your seat bones connected to the chair beneath you. If you're laying down in bed underneath children, which is what I'm usually doing when I'm doing this, then you can just feel the weight of your body supported by the bed beneath you. You're standing because you've already had to get up and get stuff sorted for the kids, then just feel it holding you through the base of your feet, and feel the soles of your feet opening up with that breath and then retracting, and just doing that anchor point as you begin your day. So you could set it to, for me, it's before I get out of bed. You could set it to brushing your teeth in the morning. You could set it to while you're sitting in the toilet. You can set it to whatever anchor point is going to start your day. These comes in with grounding checkpoints that you have throughout your day as the next point down. So it's a constant, being self-aware is not just something that you can just tell yourself you're going to do and then it's just a switch that's turned on. Self-awareness and knowing thyself comes through with constant practice and constant checking in and calibrating with where you're at. Okay, so this is why I personally have grounding checkpoints throughout my whole entire day. So I've created them to be that, like as a mom, I'm picking up lots of pieces of washing and clothes and things that are around the house. So picking up washing and taking it to the washing basket is every time I touch clothes or washing is a grounding checkpoint for me. So that includes, it started because I was hanging out washing outside and I could feel the earth underneath my feet, connecting down with the ground and channeling my energy down and being held by the earth mother and allowing my energetic body to breathe through that energy. Breathing in, breathing out, and really connecting to the earthing points. And then that moved into my day of every time I touched clothes, every time I picked up some washing that had been left on the floor, or put something in a wash basket, or put some clothes away, or anything that I did that became a checkpoint to ground into myself, to really check in with where am I holding tension in my body, Where am I holding pain? Where am I holding frustration? And you just begin to just think about your body and where are you tense? And can you release that tension? Can you drop down further into the earth? Can you allow our Earth Mother, Divine Mother energy to hold us and support us? Grounding checkpoints throughout the day. You can think about the things that you do when you're triggered. Okay, what do you do when you're feeling that tension building in your body and you're starting to get agitated? For me, I used to be a five coffee a day drinking person, and I used to be instant too. I don't do that anymore. I've gone off that. But what I would do is every time I was feeling that anxiety, that anxious build up in me, I would go and click the kettle to turn on the kettle and make a coffee. Okay, and so that became a grounding checkpoint for me, that every time I clicked the kettle on, that I was reminding myself to just breathe, anchor in, and ground myself down into my feet, my body, and just checking in with where's my tension? Why is this here? What is my trigger? What is the theme? What are my unmet needs? What do I need? And do you know what happened? Is that instant coffee that I was making turned into tea, because I was thinking, I think that I would actually benefit better from a herbal tea. And then it turned into, I think I might actually benefit better from a water. I think I might actually benefit from having some food because I haven't actually eaten, and that's making my anxiety and my feeling of not being safe and supported worse because I'm not supporting my base chakra energy of survival. Okay, so it's really, really checking in with self is so important. The other thing that is important here is apologizing and staying real with our children. So if you do find yourself triggered, if you do find yourself snapping at our kids, then what do we need to do is we need to be able to apologize and say, hey, oops, hey, I just snapped at you and that's not okay. The way that I just spoke to you is not the right way to deal with when I'm feeling upset. And so just having a really candid conversation with your child, no matter what age they are, you can apologize to them and stay real and honest with your emotions. We are always human. I'm not a perfect mother and I do snap with my kids, but I apologize to them and I tell them about how I am trying to work through my feelings. And by modeling that, it models to them how to do the same. When they snap with their sibling, when they snap with you, it models to them how they can take a step back, apologize for their reactive state, and delve deep into themselves and think, how would have rather to respond and how can I get there? So it's modeling that behavior for them. To take this a bit deeper, I really urge you to take up your journaling. Journal out your stories of the stories of your childhood, like we were talking about before, and bringing these up in chat. Where have these come from? And without judgment and without blame or being sinking into the victimhood of the stories, but just bringing them out into processing mode, bringing them out into awareness. And by doing that, you know what we can actually do? We can actually release ourselves from being stuck in these cycles, which is something that I'm going to talk about next. Okay, so that's journaling our stories. Is the next practical thing that you can do to help to process these things, these feelings, and these self-limiting beliefs, these things that get you stuck and restrained to this reaction, that feeling of not feeling safe. If we bring them out to the surface, it starts to make them feel a bit more logical, and then we can handle them a bit easier, and they don't become as much of an unconscious reaction. They move up into the conscious. The more that we acknowledge our stories and where they've come from, they move from the unconscious reaction state into a conscious responding state, and we can slow down our responses to them. Okay, and my last practical tool here for reconnecting back in so that you can be that calm, grounded, and aware guide for your child is to check in on your inner child. So an exercise that I bring through for my clients is to, every night after you've tucked your children into bed or you've laid down with them and they've gone off to sleep, they're asleep and you've got this breathing room, some time for you. Just before you go off to sleep or before you go and do what you need to get done, just take a moment to go and check in on your inner child. So to do that, all you need to do is just close down your eyes, put your hands on your heart. It can be a whole hand or just 2 fingers, but it's the connection into the heart space that's important. Just opening that heart with recognition that you're tapping into that energy, the energy of unconditional love, forgiveness, and healing. Taking a deep breath, reminding yourself of the weight of your body supported by the chair and the bed beneath you. Reminding yourself of your present awareness of where you are in the world, here and now. You're safe, exactly where you're meant to be. And then I just want you to envision yourself as a child. Perhaps you're about 6 or 7 years old, or maybe you're younger. And you're tucking yourself into bed. You can imagine you remember your bed from when you were little. Maybe you can remember your favorite teddy or toy, tucking it in next to you, making sure you feel nice and safe and comfortable. And you can whisper or tell yourself all of the beautiful things that you want to remind yourself as a child. So this might be that you're reminding your child that you are aware that they are only little and that you do not expect much big things from them. You know, all you expect from them is to be happy and to grow. And you have pure trust and faith that they are innately kind and innately passionate. And they will always do good things because they are good people. It might be that you whisper to that inner child that they are loved and they are wanted no matter what. That they belong in this world and they will find a place where they feel like their truth is heard and wanted and respected. Feel into what your child needs to hear in this moment and deliver that with an open, honest, purest heart of love for your inner child from your inner mother. The inner mother that your child has always needed. You're bringing her back into power, aligning with her and bringing her forth. Taking a deep breath in and breathing out. And that is a check-in on your inner child. Said something is another practical tool that you can use to really show compassion for yourself, showing that love and safety that you have craved. Okay. So you can see here that it has been really important to create the space that is needed to be able to see through all of the noise of the frustrated energy. It's really important to clear room for you to connect in with self, be able to trust what you feel, be able to trust what's coming to the surface, and take ownership of the stories of your life, and not from a space of victimhood, but a space from empowerment. And this is how we rewrite our story, with compassion for self and mothering our inner child. Okay. Now, the next step to my pillar of work is to unleash. To unleash is to break the patterns. To unleash is breaking the cycle. This is the step that makes it stick. Okay, so this is what really is going to be such a powerful reclamation of self. This is where we show support for our base chakra energy that is imprinted from ages 0, from birth, all the way up to 7. This is where we get the strongest imprint of this energy of survival, safety, feeling that we belong in the world, feeling that we're accepted by our tribe. We're accepted exactly as we are, even if we are a highly sensitive being, even if we are in tune with hearing different things and feeling things differently to those around us. From this base chakra energy, we form our patterns to adjust and fit in, to be accepted. So this is where we form our self-limiting beliefs that we need to be, for example, people-pleasing. For example, we need to do these certain behaviors or have these certain mindsets in order to be accepted so that we aren't abandoned from our tribe and the people that make us feel safe and protected. Okay. The tribal acceptance comes through with what are the codes of honor that your family line. And this is not just your mother and your father, but this is a lineage thing that goes back through generations of trauma and wisdom and yeah, it's the code of honor. This is the values and this is the way that we live and this is the way that we do things. And you can see this coming through with people breaking away as they rise up into their own adulthood and they start to create a tribe of their own. Perhaps they find a partner from a tribe that's a bit different, they think a bit differently, or they move into parenting differently to the way that they were raised. They move into a tribe of people that are living in a way that is different, or a religion that's different to the way that they were raised. And we find all of this coming to the surface of this pain of rejection and abandonment from our tribe and who we have always belonged to in this world. It creates a huge rise up of feeling unsafe, a huge rise up of our survival instincts coming in, which is reflected in that fight or flight or freeze responses. That's that shutting down, playing small. The fight is that defensive mode, is where we might start yelling or being snapping or being defensive. All of this stuff starts to come out when we feel this new rise coming through to the surface, and we need to support our base chakra. So this is the work that I would do with you, is to help you support your base chakra to feel safe in the world again. Okay? What is your reaction story? What is the anger, the guilt, and the shame that comes out as a reaction to the story that you have taken on as a reflection as your worth? When we react, we are often taking on the reaction or the needs of our child. Especially, I'm talking about children in this space, but it comes out in many different relationships, be that with partners, workplaces, friends, you name it. Whenever you have a relationship, these triggers can be birthed, and they're often birthed in a mother-child relationship, because we have that authoritarian rule that has come through from the family lineage. And that's what we're talking about breaking the cycle from, is that we're moving from a state of, instead of being that authoritarian ruler over our child, we are working in a cohesive relationship of equals. We are working in a cohesive relationship of respect and communicating with compassion. Okay, so it's shifting that, and changing that. And we get to this point where we need to break this cycle, and we get these cycles that come up, these triggers, these reactions that start to rear their head for us when we're ready to say that this is ready to come to an end. It's that contract, or that saying that comes up as traumas get passed down through family lines until one person is ready or strong enough to stand up and say, this ends here. This is ending with me. I'm no longer going to be passing down these stories of what it means to be worthy, of what it means to, you need to be quiet to be good, you need to be organized to be, or hustling to be worthy, you need to be compliant in order to be accepted. All of these different stories, and whatever theme that might come through for you. So it's about rewriting those stories of childhood, of past relationship traumas. Where did you first hear this? And let's rewrite this. Let's go and explore these soul contracts that have been living in your bones and passed down through generations in your DNA. expanding on your beliefs of self-worth, and then we can dissolve the contracts that we carry. So we need to become aware of where they came from, understand their background, and this can really be a huge point of why the cycles don't get broken. This can be a huge point into why people just keep on living in that reaction cycle and saying that, you know, it's that choice of whether we choose to take the guilt that comes as a reaction to our trigger and that way that we've responded. We get this feeling of guilt that comes up. And when we get this feeling of guilt, I've written about this before, is that we get a choice to make. When we get this feeling of guilt arise with us, it's telling us that you're not in alignment with your values because you've done something that's against them. And then that guilt is giving you a way out. It's giving you two paths. You can either push it down and bury it and say, well, you know, at least I felt guilty, so that means that, you know, obviously I didn't mean it. And it becomes buried further and more shadow and more festering, and it becomes one of those shames that we don't talk about and we push down and we pretend that we've never yelled at our child and we pretend that we didn't snap at them. Okay, those types of things that circle around. Or we just, you know, we'll feel really embarrassed about it and we won't talk about it. It doesn't become something that we really want to air or share. And those things become shames, and the shames get buried in our bones, in our DNA, and they get passed down because it's something that's not dealt with as a communication with our child. It's something that does the children actually form as we have, as a pattern of that's the way it is and that's what I need to do. And if I don't do these types of actions, then, you know, I get this response from my mom. You know? It's that whole checking in with mom and saying, you know, mom, are you okay? Are you okay? You seem upset. Or as a child might be like, mom, what's wrong? And mum says, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry. I'm not upset. But as a sensitive child, as an intuitive child, you can feel that there's something wrong. But mum is burying her feelings and pushing things down and not acknowledging them. So then what does the child do? The child who is in that, as you were saying earlier in the chat, that undeveloped state to be able to be aware of what the boundaries are, can then take these feelings of pushing them down, but they still feel that negative response that's burning under the surface, that bubbling resentment of a need that's not being met, and they'll take it on board as being personal. And the mother did not mean for that to be happening. The mother has the intentions of trying to push her feelings down so the child is not impacted, so the child is not feeling the hurt that comes up from the mother's own pain. The mum's trying to push her pain down. But what actually happens is the child picks up on the pain and internalizes it as their own fault, is that something happened and it was my fault. That's a connection to my own personal journey, but I've seen it repeat on so many of my clients as well. And that's how the cycle is repeated. So the unleashing phase is about really moving into that and finding an understanding of where our mothers were coming from, finding an understanding about the traumas of the family line and what's been passed down through these stories, and what has been pushed under the surface and held down so that it wasn't there to hurt others, but it's still felt under the surface. It's still felt on an energetic imprinting level. And then there's the soul contracts, as we delve into past life stories and the contracts that we carry. The contracts that we carry to be good, to not be defiant, all of these things that trigger us when our children aren't listening, to all of the contracts of where have we held control, like where have we been controlled, where have we been overridden. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Doing these things to our children unintentionally, and I do it too. I'm not a perfect mother, but what I'm here to do is to help you to become self-aware. And self-awareness, as I was saying earlier, is not just a turn on a switch and you're done. You become self-aware of anything. It's not, I feel like it's not something that we can actually get to a point of finished. Okay, it is a constant practice and a constant calibration and checking in with self. And I am going to honor you for being here and showing up for this journey, because it means that you are ready to break the cycle. You're ready to become aware. And the awareness is the first step. It is the key to it all, because once we become aware, then the next time it starts to come, that feeling is baby sister gets hurt and you feel she could have prevented it from happening. That thought has now moved into the conscious. Okay, instead of it being an unconscious thing, it's now a conscious thing, and you'll think, oh, how can I rephrase this? And that's the triggering of breaking the cycle. Okay, so we're moving them into the conscious space to process and change and shift and rewrite the stories. Okay, so let me just check in with my notes and make sure that I'm not moving off track. Yeah, the contracts that we carry to save us from abandonment, to save us from being cast away from our tribe, to save us from being pushed outside of our circle of safety, our comfort zones. So the be good makes us into people pleasing. The stay quiet and small keeps us safe. The obey will be banished. Can you think of like past lives that could have played out that have been the obey or be banished? How many lifetimes back has it been? Okay, so this is my work level, is this going through this unleashing and unleashing you from these restraints that have held you down for way too long. Let's unleash these captive chains. Okay. I'm going backwards. Somehow going the wrong way. Okay, evolve. Okay, so to evolve, what would it mean for you to be able to guide your child's needs to evolve in this world? So we are really stepping into this work to clear a pathway for our children so that they can rise unrestrained by self-doubt. Imagine if you could be the guide that you needed when you were little. Imagine if your mum had been able to be aware of these things that she was saying, or these things that she was, or these beliefs that she was passing down, or your parents were passing down. What do you wish your parents understood about you and the way you were responding to them? And were able to have that self-trust and that intuitive knowing of where their limits were, so that they could really hold that space for you, the space that you needed to be able to thrive. How much easier would it be for you in this world to raise conscious, aware, thriving, beautifully in tune children who are in tune with not only their own self-worth and their own self-trusting instincts, but they're in tune with other people around them. They're in tune with source energy of the earth. Because I truly believe that when we are connected to self, we connect in the source. When we are connected with self, we are connected in with everybody else in the universe, and not just our children. Our children, of course, get the full extent of the benefits from our connection to self, of our full awareness. To do this work is not self-care. To do this work is world care. Because when we become self-aware, when we become grounded and calm, when we become connected to earth energies and connected to self and source, we are able to be a compassionate being on this earth. We are able to help our vibration to lift, that will help everybody else to rise up into the world that we want to see. That is my overall mission here, is to help you be that guide for your child, and to help take you through these 3 pillars of the reconnection to self and source. The unleashing of all of your stories and the ties that keep you down. And the evolution stage of really claiming your intuition and claiming your ability to guide and hold space for your beautifully intuitive and tuned child. Okay, so imagine if you could be that guide. And that's what I bring as an offer through. Okay, so the motherhood evolution is my three-pillar process to embracing that deep connection with yourself so that you can clear that pathway for your own children, and it brings stronger connections in with your child. So it really creates a strong bond of trust with yourself, trust with your child, and your children actually trust themselves and their own instincts and their own needs as well, which is such a gift to give to them. I know that for myself, we have these fears that our children will get swept up in crowds, that will make the wrong choices, that they will lose their way. And to be able to move from a space of controlling and holding them to these expectations, and then instead handing the power over to them and saying, I know that you've got this and I trust you, is huge. It's huge for their own development and ours as well, as a guide that walks beside them on this path rather than pushing or directing. So my special offer for you, beautiful women who have watched this live masterclass, is 20% off my private mentorship packages. So I only have space for a few people to apply. So I'm offering the 20% off for my first 3 people to apply for a package. Let me just check that. Trigger from being near your parents. Yeah. And I feel like I have one foot in the pool of breaking the cycle, yet being near them sends me backwards into an autopilot of trauma responses. Sleevius evolve slide again to write down the journal prompts. Yes, I can take you back to that slide, not a problem. Okay, so yep, there's a space for questions here as well. So if you have any questions, pop them up in the chat and I will answer them for you. Okay, so when it comes to healing these restraints and these unleashing yourself from these stories and these patterns, one of the beautiful things is that you don't actually have to do it with anybody in the space of anybody that has been a part of these stories. You can heal yourself from your mother wound without having to contact your mother at all. You can heal yourself through your mother wound without having to even tell her that you're doing the work. And you know what, the thing that comes out of that is, for me in my own personal journey, a stronger relationship with her, because we're able to come to a space of forgiveness and understanding for each other's pain. That was from me, as I was able to move out of a state of victimhood and blame into a state of understanding and pure compassion for where she was at in her journey. And that's really shifted and up leveled my own journey with my own children. Okay, so it comes from a state of feeling that you just want complete distance, and you can do this work without even having to tell them that you're moving through this stuff. You don't have to have contact with anybody that's been in the stories, and that's your parents. If that's your fathers, we've worked through this with abusive fatherhood and everything like that as well. It's not just the mother wounds that we address here. It comes up with lots of different stories that come through the line. It can even be coming through as a healing that's been from the past life of so many generations, or lifetimes, I should say, ago. And of course, we do not have to have a personal relationship with these stories to be able to heal and dissolve the ties that keep us restrained to the self-limiting beliefs that we are living in our lives today. And that's what's so powerful about this work, is that it really allows us to dissolve those ties and shift into our next phase and be such liberated mothers who trust ourselves, who trust our children, who raise children that trust themselves as well. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for me? We'll come back into the chat. Created immense trauma amidst times of loving parenting. Yeah, it's like our parents can really feel like we, as all parents, this is where I come at this work from a space of, it's completely stepping out of the victimhood, and it is Completely opening up with compassion to hearing that everybody's doing the best that they can do with resources that they have available to them at the time. And sometimes our parents have very limited resources. Sometimes our parents are feeling like they're with only their mouth available out of the water, the rest of their body drowning. Sometimes our parents feel like they are stuck as well. They feel like they're in that tumultuous state of overwhelm. Yep, so I can hear you say that if my child is already 7 and have self-limiting beliefs, how do I help them rewrite this message? And it's by healing yourself, Nicole. Sorry. It's by healing yourself. It is by really tuning into the modeling of the holding space for self, of apologizing and holding compassion for where you're at and moving through these feelings. And to know that whatever comes up, I have a 7-year-old myself. And when these things come up, is that they have, when this is coming back to holding that compassion for self and knowing that we aren't perfect mothers, knowing that there is always going to be something that will come through, and teaching and modeling the way that we handle and process these emotions that come through. The modeling of the healing is how we model to our children how to be emotionally intelligent, emotionally available, and process through these stages themselves. And I can see you saying, there are times when I struggle being around one of my parents due to the impact they have had on me in my childhood, and would express my values and boundaries in raising a grandson. Yeah, and this is really coming into your boundaries. It's okay to have boundaries, even with our parents. It's okay to have boundaries and hold our ground against our values. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say I won't accept that. It's okay to say I'm taking some space from this. That's all okay. And the struggles that come up against this is that unleashing that comes up from the breaking the restraint of what was going to happen if I separate myself, if I stand up, if I voice my opinion, if I'm loud about my values, if I break away and I don't obey, I will be abandoned from my tribal space. But if it comes back to a rewriting of that story, okay, it comes back to unleashing of that is how can you support yourself to feel safe, belonging, honoring your codes of honor, honoring your values, all of these different things. Okay. So it sounds like you'd be really needing to unleash your ties of what would it mean if you were not obeying. How to parent if I'm an equal to my child rather than a gentle authority. Yeah. And so this is really that being the guide rather than the authoritarian. Okay. So would you like to elaborate on that a bit more about the guidance that you're requiring? So, okay. There we go. How to parent. If my child does not want to do a chore or follow a direction, I may listen to his feelings, yet still make him follow the expectation. Yeah, and that's you holding your boundaries as well. We state our values is that we all work together to make a clean house. You know, we have these expectations that we all need to put in to make it fair for everybody else. That's the value of ours. If my child does not want to do a chore or follow the direction, then it's coming from a space of, well, why not? What are you struggling with in the part of our family values? What part of that are you not on board on? And really adjusting what their values are and what their needs are from this, and just asking them, well, what's important to you in this moment? It could be the fact that they're just not seeing it because then they've got a bit of a blinkers on and they just really want to do this task that they're focused on. And so they're saying, no, I'm not doing that because they've got different values at this point in time. Okay, so it's just asking them, well, why not? what's more important to you at this moment than doing this as a family value. Okay, this is important to me because this is the reason why, and I can see that this is not as important to you. Can you tell me why? Can you explain to me where this is on your level? Okay, so it's everything that I'm doing with my children is coming back to a space of compassionate communication and understanding from a space of what are your values versus my values, and how can we move them or merge them, or how can we create a space of, what's that word I'm looking for? How can we get a space of compromising? Okay. You seeing your worthiness was measured by parent pleasing and doing it right. Now see, I expect this of my own children. Yeah, and that's the cycle. So the moving into the awareness is breaking the cycle. Okay, so to come back to the end of our presentation today, yeah, so as I was saying, we get 20% off for the first 3 applicants. If you would like to move into private mentorship where I can hold the space for us to uncover your particular stories, your ties, help you find your bespoke way of holding space for yourself and reconnecting back into your sense of self, into your rhythms and your connection with the earth, and how to hold this space for your children to evolve. Okay, the way that I work is that I offer private mentorships online through Zoom like this, through 3, 6, or 12-month healing journeys. They're all 90-minute sessions that are held fortnightly. Okay, and you get access to me in between for times of need. So if you have a crisis that come up and you need some extra support, you can contact me in between sessions and I hold that space for you. You get access to group support through our Healing Ground, which is our online circle space where we hold rituals and meditations on full moons and new moons. And you also get custom blended flower essences to support you through your energetic and emotional shifts throughout our journey. Okay, so 20% off for the first 3 applicants to my motherhood evolution journey. I do only have limited spaces to take people on board. A wonderful class. Thank you for this empowerment. Oh, you are so welcome. It has been such an honor to have you here. And I'm so grateful for you all being here throughout this masterclass. It's been an absolute joy to share it all with you. I will be saving this all and uploading it into the email so that you can watch it back if you need to take more notes or absorb it in a different space of mind. That's all okay. So you are so welcome. It's been an absolute honor and a joy to bring this through to you. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. If you would like to take me up on my masterclass offer of the private 20% off private mentorship, please send me an email. And what we will do is we will have a consultation call where we'll jump on Zoom, just you and I, for a free chat to really see what your story is and how I can support you and if we're a good fit to work together. And then I can offer you your beautiful offer, the 20% off, whichever journey is going to be the best way for you to begin your work and evolving through this motherhood evolution. So thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a really good day or night for you if you're on the other side of the world.